Mall ninja. What are mall ninja? Well, they're these guys, you know, these losers. They buy these cheap swords. They dress all in black. They're always posting dumb sword stuff on social media and YouTube. Oh no. But seriously, a mall ninja sword is just a cheap sword that you would find in a mall in one of these trinket shops or out of a catalog. Now, you might not believe it, but I happen to own a few of these so-called mall ninja swords. This one here being my worst offender. So, what we are going to do today is take this thing and give it a few cosmetic upgrades so as to make it look a little less like something you would find on a drug dealer's coffee table. So let's do this. Here's what we're working with. Let's see. Looks like it's 26 inches long overall. The sharp part of the blade is about 15 inches long, but we've also got all this fantasy cutout stuff going on. The blade has this black finish, which I believe is some kind of a baked-on enamel. I'm unsure about this blue bevel. We'll just have to see how hard that is to remove. It came with this small guard on it, which is kind of nice. Looks like it's made out of the same 1/8-inch thick steel as the blade. And of course we get this cord-wrapped grip. Let's unwrap it and see what's under there. Huh. It looks like there's something underneath this vinyl wrap. Let's take off this second layer. So here's what we're left with. Oddly enough, it looks like this blade has been welded onto this handle instead of just using one solid piece. This hole may come in handy when I'm attaching the handle. So the next step is to strip off this finish. Wish me luck. I guess nothing's ever easy. I watched a couple different YouTube videos that assured me that this particular paint stripper would work. Now, as you can see, the blue came off pretty well. The black finish, however, is proving to be quite stubborn. Looks like it started to work here. We're going to have to do this the old-fashioned way. Time for some elbow grease. Now we're getting somewhere. Next, we're going to see if we can't do something about these fantasy cutouts. On top, I'm going to get rid of these two spiky bits, and then just continue this curve. And down here, I'm going to grind along this bevel line, and just continue it into that final curve. Now that I've got the blade about where I want it, it's time to take a look at the handle. Now what I could do is make a couple of handle scales and just attach them to this tang, which is in a pretty decent shape as it is. Now that's what I would do if I was smart, but that is not the case. I intend to make this a little bit harder on myself. Here's what I plan on doing. So here's what it looks like now. I intend to lengthen out the handle, maybe about another 3 or 4 inches. Come out here, to make it a little bit longer. That means I'm going to have to grind off this little end piece, this little hook, because I don't want that in the way of the curve. This should accentuate the S shape of the blade into the handle, thus giving me a slightly more elegant design. So here I've got everything I need to make a nice micarta handle. Micarta is a really durable material made out of sheets of usually fabric or paper. I'm using this black and white construction paper, and it is then saturated with this 2-part epoxy resin. Now this epoxy resin will make these sheets a little slippery, so I made this frame. It should hold the sheets in place while I work. So here is my finished slab of micarta. I wanted it to be about 3/4 of an inch thick, but it came out just under that because the resin set up too quickly. What I have here will be fine though. Now I'm going to use the table saw to trim these edges into a nice rectangle. Alrighty, this looks pretty good. Now I've gone ahead and made a rough template for the handle I want. So now I'm going to cut it out using the table saw and a jigsaw. Now that I've got it all roughed out, I need to cut a slot down the center for the tang to fit into. This cut's going to go about halfway down the length. The next step is I have to trim off this end of the tang because this part will interfere with the curve of the handle. Now that the tang has been cut down to size, next I'm going to refine the shape of the micarta with a jigsaw. It's looking pretty good. And finally it's time to shape this handle. Whoops! I forgot an important step. Before I start shaping the handle, I need to drill the pinholes that will hold it all together. As you can see, I've taken care of it. She's starting to look pretty good, y'all. I got that handle sanded down about as smooth as glass. Now all I gotta do is stick that sucker on with some epoxy. The epoxy is set and we are looking good. So it's time for the final step. Let's put a finish on it. I'm going to be using this Birchwood Casey True Oil for the finish. It's good stuff. You can put on multiple layers. You should give it a nice gloss. I'd buy that for $1. Now make no mistake, the sword still sucks. The blade is just a sharpened piece of cheap stainless steel. But now it's just slightly less embarrassing to own. Anyway, thanks for watching, and let me know what you think in the comments. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. Like and subscribe.